I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped onto my porch, but nothing prepared me for seeing a grown man choking my pregnant wife against our wall. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. Now let me back up. Life on a rural property is supposed to be simple. Dirt roads, wide sky, slow mornings. That's why my wife Ella and I chose Pine Hollow Ridge in the first place. We wanted peace. Especially now, with her 7 months pregnant, every day felt like preparing for something beautiful. We'd been painting the nursery, setting up the crib, even arguing about baby names in the kind of soft, playful way only expectant parents do, until the HOA fell apart. Pine Hollow Ridge never needed one. Most of the residents kept to themselves, and the land practically managed itself. But then Vera Lorne moved in, the kind of woman who believed rules gave her personality. Within a few months, she crowned herself HOA president and brought in a security officer of her own making. Nick Carver. No training, no authority, just a cheap vest, a plastic badge, and an ego too big for his boots. His first warning was about our mailbox being too rustic. His second was about Ella blocking visibility by placing flower pots on the porch steps. His third, well, Ella didn't even tell me at first. She said Nick had followed her home from the grocery store, claiming he needed to document her route for HOA records. She brushed it off as paranoia. I didn't. But the real problem started last week, when Ella called me while I was fixing the fence. Nick was here again, she said quietly. He wanted to check the house interior for safety issues. He said refusing inspection could lead to penalties. I felt my blood pressure rise just hearing his name. I told her to keep the doors locked and to call me if he came back. I had no idea how far he would take things. Fast forward to the day everything snapped. It had rained earlier, so the porch wood smelled like earth and pine. Ella was outside setting new potted herbs on the railing, the only exercise she liked to get lately. I told her I'd only be in the shed for 5 minutes to grab some tools. 5 minutes. Sometimes that's all it takes for your entire world to tilt. I was wiping grease from my hands when I heard a dull thud. Then a second one. Not loud, but heavy. Wrong, like something hitting a wall, not falling off it. I stepped out, half expecting to see a raccoon or a fallen pot. Instead, the moment my boots hit the porch steps, I froze. Nick was there, not standing, not talking, not issuing one of his pathetic violations. He had Ella pinned against our porch wall, one hand crushing her throat, his forearm jammed into her shoulder. Her feet scrambled for balance, her hands clawing at his wrist, her face red with panic and shock. The ceramic herb pot lay shattered on the wood beside them. She tried to scream, but nothing came out, just a broken gasp. Nick hissed, "You don't ignore HOA orders, you hear me? You think being pregnant gives you a pass?" That was the moment something in me went still. Cold, quiet, final. And Nick Carver was about to learn what real consequences felt like. I didn't shout. I didn't warn him. Men like Nick don't deserve warnings. But he must have felt the shift in the air because he turned his head just enough to see me standing there at the foot of the porch. "Back off," he snarled, tightening his grip around Ella's throat. "This is HOA business." She resisted inspection. Ella's face was turning a deep shade of red, her breaths short and sharp, her hands trembling as she tried to pull his fingers off. My chest tightened so hard it felt like my ribs were trying to crack from the inside. I stepped forward slowly, hands loose at my sides, voice low but steady. "Take your hand off my wife," Nick scoffed. "She assaulted me first." He didn't finish, because I moved. Training isn't dramatic, it isn't loud, it's precision, cold, efficient, and final. Everything went quiet in my head as I closed the distance. Nick lifted his free hand as if to swing at me, but I caught his wrist midair. My grip locked around it like a clamp, and with my other hand, I pried his fingers off Ella's throat. She collapsed to her knees, coughing desperately, trying to pull air back into her lungs. Nick realized too late he'd lost control. "What the? Get off me!" he barked, trying to yank his arm out of my hold. I twisted. The forearm rotated past its natural range. He screamed. His knees buckled, but I didn't let go. I stepped behind him, securing the arm into a full prone lock. His shoulder joint shifted under my palm. The movement was clean, practiced. A single twist applied correctly can disable a man for months. The pop echoed across the porch. He howled, dropping to the boards like a sack of grain. You broke my arm," he cried, clutching it with his good hand, rolling onto his back. I didn't speak. Not yet. I wasn't done. He tried to scramble up, maybe to run, maybe to reach for the baton clipped to his vest. I kicked it away and planted a knee on his chest. His breath exploded out of him. I grabbed his shirt collar, pulled him upward just enough, and delivered a sharp elbow strike to his ribs. Another crack. This one deeper. Nick writhed, gasping. "Stop! Stop, please!" "You choked a pregnant woman," I said quietly. My pregnant wife, he whimpered, trying to roll away, but I flipped him onto his stomach and pinned him easily. His right arm hung uselessly, his ribs shifting wrong under his breaths. Ella sat near the wall, one hand on her neck, tears streaking down her cheeks, but eyes sharp and furious. She nodded at me, silently telling me she was okay, or at least conscious. I pressed my knee between Nick's shoulder blades. "You're done," I said. He tried to spit out some excuse, but all that came out was a pained groan. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Calm, controlled, every detail precise. "This is a citizen report," I said. "One male impersonating an officer, trespassing and assaulting a pregnant woman. Suspect is restrained, requires medical transport." Nick whimpered at the word medical. Ella slowly stood, leaning on the porch rail. Her voice cracked as she looked down at him. "You picked the wrong house," she whispered. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance, growing louder. And Nick Carver, the fake HOA cop who thought he could bully anyone he pleased, lay broken and helpless on our porch, waiting for the consequences he'd earned. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe, because the story is only going to get better. The deputies arrived fast, faster than I expected for a rural road. Red and blue washed across the porch as two cruisers slid into the gravel. Nick whimpered the moment he heard them, curling around his broken ribs like he hoped they'd crawl back into place. Deputy Paul stepped out first, hand hovering near his holster. "What happened here?" he asked, eyes flicking from my wife's throat, still red from being choked, to Nick's twisted arm on the ground. "He attacked my pregnant wife," I said, voice steady. I stopped him. Paul kneeled beside Nick, who tried to speak but only managed a wet gasp. His forearm bent at a shape God never intended. One look told the deputy everything he needed. "Ambulance is en route," he muttered, then lifted his radio. "We've got felony assault on a pregnant woman. Suspect down." My wife stood behind me, wrapped in a blanket a neighbor brought over, shaking but finally safe. Another deputy, Morales, found the fake badge first. Cheap metal, wrong seal, wrong font. Next came the baton Nick had dropped, still streaked from where he'd hit her. Then Morales lifted a clipboard. "You're going to want to see this," he said slowly. I took it. On the top was a printed title, Priority Enforcement Targets, and there at the top of the list was my wife's name. Under it, a handwritten note burned into my memory. "Apply pressure if she doesn't comply," I muttered. Vera Lorne, our HOA president, the woman who'd spent months complaining about my wife's pregnancy parking placard, the woman who insisted our porch railing was non-compliant, the woman who told neighbors we were lowering the neighborhood tone. My jaw tightened. "She sent him." Morales nodded grimly. "Already looks like it." The ambulance arrived. Paramedics confirmed what I'd already done to him. Broken arm, 3 fractured ribs, possible lung bruise. Mild concussion. They loaded him up, his screams fading as the doors shut. Paul looked back at me with a mix of fear and confusion. "You? Who are you?" I didn't answer. But Morales glanced at the tattoo on my wrist, the one I always kept covered. A trident. His eyes widened slightly. "Thought I recognized that," he said softly. "You Navy?" "Was," I replied. "Long time ago." He nodded with a quiet respect. The next morning, warrants were issued for Vera Lorne. Deputies dragged her out of the HOA office while she ranted about executive authority and community discipline. She swore it was a misunderstanding, but paperwork doesn't lie. Her personal files told the truth. She'd authorized Nick to perform physical compliance checks. She'd paid him using HOA reserve funds. She'd targeted homeowners she disliked, including my wife. By noon, the charges were public. Nick, HOA cop, felony assault on a pregnant woman, impersonating an officer, trespassing with intent to harm. Sentence, 12 years in state prison. Conspiracy to commit assault, abuse of authority, evidence tampering, criminal endangerment. Sentence, 5 years in prison plus 25,000 in restitution, lifetime HOA ban. That evening, my wife and I sat on the porch. Her bruises were fading. Her breathing was steady again. "It's really over?" she whispered. I pulled her close. "It's over for them," I said. And that's how one fake HOA cop and the president who sent him learned you never touch a pregnant woman, especially the wife of a Navy SEAL. The end.